Hello, everyone. Let me get connected here. Sorry, I'm not watching the screen just yet. Hold on. Okay, let me get signed in on here. Blah, 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 blah. Wah, 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 wah. We are still on. Hey, Animal Audit Corner. Comment hello. Hello. We have our LAPD commission meeting today. And it ought to be good. What I do with my phone. Alrighty then, we're just gotta wait. Oh, on the peoples. It usually takes a little while for. Oh, the meeting is at 9:30 Pacific. So in 10 minutes, and this is a Zoom call where a lot of times none of us get really to talk on Zoom because they don't follow their own rules. And Audit is going to be there. So I told her I would stream. Hey, Peter. Missed you the last couple of days. How are you doing? Amazing. Well, you report them to themselves. That's okay. You're allowed to lurk, Peter. It's all right. So much going on that it's kind of worth lurking. If I wasn't streaming, I'd be probably just lurking too. Yeah, so I have something prepared for the meeting today. Whether I get picked, I don't think I will be, but I've got something prepared. I've had it prepared for the last 3 weeks, but who knows? But I did tell Audit that I would stream it so that way she could grab it because my audio is easier to hear. Yeah, well, yeah, recycled is another word for it. What do they have on their agenda for today? It's usually blah, 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 blah. But let's see. Report of the chief, public comment, consent agenda. Relative to the city council file, collaborative approaches. Ooh, what was that? Towards preventing and addressing hate crimes as set forth. That one might be interesting. What is that? One of 26 pages. Oh, it's for the hate crime grant. Oh, so it's for the hate crime grant. Okay. Okay. And then department report. I'm not looking at chat, you guys. Hold on. Donations, donations, donation, donation. Chief of police to travel. Donations. Okay, so lots of donations. I suspect you are probably right. I will give you a copy or give you the link. Hold on. Let me go back to it. Copy link. Yeah, and none of us are managing, or I don't think I'm managing. Hey, y'all. Hey, Joe. That's a good idea. Hey, Battle. Oh, I'll tell her. She's trying out a new microphone. Excuse me. Here, let me go to it and see. Is she live? Yep, she's live. Popo shenanigans. Audit. You're horrible. I'm sorry, I have icky is in my throat today. Audit, we're black. Did you turn off your screen? Or is it my screen? I don't know. I think it might be my screen. They started? Well, they didn't start it on Zoom.
Mr. Sibley, Madam Secretary, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Mr. City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, members of the public, today is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect that Commissioners Southers, Shields, Garcia, Sanchez, Gordon are present, and we have a quorum. Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that the individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. So you're free to express your opinion on the matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinion shall be deemed off topic and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there's a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. Before we move to the first agenda item, I'd first like to publicly thank Acting Inspector General Florence Yu for her service here during the time of the last several months where we were seeking through our exhaustive process to identify and appoint a new Inspector General. Thank you, Ms. Yu. I want to take a moment and welcome our new Inspector General, Matthew Barragan, to his first commission meeting. Mr. Barragan joins us from the United States Attorney's Office, Central District, where he most recently served as the United States Attorney, bringing civil rights actions to enforce federal civil rights laws, including the Fair Housing Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Civil Rights of Institutionalized Persons Act. Mr. Barragan, we welcome you, and we look forward to working with you. With that, we will move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police. Chief McDonald.
Morning, President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today, I'll be discussing significant events from the previous 2 weeks, providing a crime update, and discussing our personnel strength. I'd like to take just a moment to acknowledge the passing of retired Interim Chief Marty Pomeroy, who passed away on March 11th. Chief Pomeroy dedicated his life to the department and the people of Los Angeles. He began his career in 1969 and rose through the ranks, retiring as a deputy chief in December of 2000. In May of 2002, he selflessly came out of retirement to lead the LAPD as interim chief, guiding the department through a critical transition period. Throughout his long and distinguished career, Chief Pomeroy exemplified integrity, professionalism, and dedication, qualities that define the very best of this department. His leadership and commitment to public service left a lasting impact on those who had the privilege of working with him. While he may be gone, his contributions will not be forgotten. Our thoughts are with his family, friends, and all those who served alongside him. On March 11, 2025, at approximately 1850 hours, suspect later identified as Adrian Uribe self-reported to 911 that he was armed with a grenade, a shotgun, was suicidal, and would shoot any police that approached his residence located in an apartment complex in the 2300 block of Scarf Street. Southwest Patrol Division officers responded to the location and were guided by citizens to Uribe's residence. Officers set up a containment around the location and made verbal contact with Uribe, who failed to obey officers' commands and remained barricaded in his apartment. Metropolitan Division Special Weapons and Tactics responded to the location to assist in the apprehension of Uribe. Prior to SWAT's arrival, and as officers were attempting to negotiate with Uribe, he suddenly emerged from his apartment, holding what appeared to be a shotgun, and pointed it toward officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Uribe was not struck by the gunfire and retreated back into his apartment and continued to remain barricaded. SWAT officers subsequently arrived at the scene and formed a tactical plan. After continued negotiations and the release of oleoresin capsicum, or OC vapor gas, into his apartment, Uribe surrendered to officers and was taken into custody without further incident. No officers or community members were injured during the incident. No evidence of explosives or ordnance were located during the investigation. A black and brown plastic replica gun was recovered at the scene and processed as evidence. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. On March 14, 2025, about 2022 hours, Southeast Patrol Division uniformed officers observed a vehicle driving erratically and conducted a traffic stop on Imperial Highway west of Spring Street. From behind their vehicle doors, the officer ordered the driver, later identified as Mario Sanchez, to lower his windows and to place his hands outside his vehicle. Sanchez yelled profanity at the officers and moments later exited the driver's door. Sanchez then faced the officers, removed a dark object from his waistband area, and quickly pointed it at them, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Sanchez was struck by gunfire and collapsed in the roadway. Upon the arrival of additional units, an arrest team was formed and Sanchez was taken into custody without further incident. Officers rendered medical aid to Sanchez until the arrival of Los Angeles Fire Department personnel, who, after assuming care, transported him to a local hospital where he was pronounced deceased. No officers or other community members were injured during this incident. The object Sanchez pointed at the officers at the time of the OIS was later determined to be a cell phone. Force Investigation Division investigators, along with representatives from the California Department of Justice, responded to the scene and are investigating this incident. Notification to Sanchez's next of kin were conducted by representatives from the Department of Justice. Year to date, we've had 8 officer-involved shootings, the same number as this time last year. On a separate incident on March 20th, 2025, at approximately 9 in the morning, Foothill Area Patrol officers responded to a house explosion at 13557 Remington Street. Upon arrival, officers and the Los Angeles Fire Department discovered a lone male occupant with severe burn injuries. The victim was transported to a nearby hospital in critical condition. During the initial assessment, investigators located materials consistent with fireworks manufacturing, confirmed an illegal operation. Given the presence of volatile explosive materials, the LAPD bomb squad was requested to conduct a post-blast inspection. The team verified that hazardous chemical precursors and explosive compounds were present, requiring immediate containment and mitigation efforts. Due to the complexity of the scene and potential risk to the community, the LAPD established a unified command working alongside the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, Environmental Protection Agency, the Los Angeles County Fire Department, Los Angeles City Fire Department, the American Red Cross, and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, the Southern California Gas Company, and Council District 7. Given the instability of the materials, mandatory evacuations were ordered for surrounding homes. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and Southern California Gas Company shut off services to prevent any secondary incidents. The Red Cross provided shelter and resources to displaced residents while officials worked to mitigate the threat. Following a thorough assessment by the LAPD bomb squad technicians and federal chemists from ATF and FBI, a controlled burn was determined to be the safest way to neutralize the remaining hazardous materials. The controlled burn was initiated on Friday evening and continued for approximately 10 hours. By Saturday, all hazardous materials had been safely contained and the area was declared safe. All residents have since returned to their homes and the investigation remains ongoing. Detectives from LAPD Major Crimes Division, in collaboration with the ATF, are continuing to investigate the incident to identify all parties involved in the illegal fireworks operation. The Pacoima incident demonstrated the growth and modernization of the LAPD bomb squad since the 2021 27th Street explosion, where a controlled detonation led to an unintended damage. Since then, the department has implemented enhanced safety protocols, stricter operational safeguards, and standardized evacuation procedures to prevent similar issues. These improvements were fully deployed in Pacoima, ensuring that all residents were accounted for and safely evacuated before the operation. The decision-making process was guided by expert input from chemists and explosive specialists. And incident command and interagency coordination were highly effective, ensuring a safe and efficient resolution. I'm proud of our response to this incident. This incident demonstrated LAPD's commitment to public safety, interagency cooperation, and continuous improvement. The quick, coordinated response minimized risk to the community and demonstrated the enhanced training, leadership, and decision-making of the bomb squad. A significant arrest in 77th area on the weekend of March 7th saw 3 separate shootings from Friday into Saturday within 77th Street area. These incidents resulted in 2 victims being shot and a 3rd victim's vehicle window being shot out. Both shooting victims are now in stable condition. Gang detectives from 77th Street area responded off hours to assess the incidents and determined that they likely were related. Victims and witnesses consistently reported that a silver sedan followed them before the driver engaged in a car-to-car shooting. Officers recovered 3 expended 9mm cartridge cases from one of the crime scenes. On March 11th, at approximately 3 a.m., officers from 77th Street established a perimeter near Western Avenue and Manchester Boulevard for an unrelated armed suspect. During this operation, the department's airship observed a silver 2-door Ford Mustang fleeing the area at a high rate of speed. Officers conducted an investigative stop and made contact with the driver, who was a known gang member. A semi-automatic Glock handgun was in plain view inside the vehicle, and the suspect was taken into custody without incident. Detectives quickly determined that the suspect vehicle matched the distinct description of the vehicle captured by surveillance footage at each of the other crime scenes. Working collaboratively with Forensic Sciences Division, detectives expedited the analysis of the recovered firearm, and within hours, forensic testing linked the 9mm cartridge cases from the crime scene to the firearm found in the suspect's vehicle. When interrogated, the suspect admitted to being at the crime scene. Further investigative efforts led detectives to serve search warrants at 2 locations connected to the suspect. Additional search warrants were obtained to analyze his cell phone data, further placing him at each crime scene. These shootings were not related to gang violence. The suspect, who suffers from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, believed he was being followed and targeted random victims. Thanks to the diligence and quick coordination of our officers and detectives, this suspect was apprehended without further violence. On the burglary crew front, I want to take a moment to highlight the exceptional police work that led to the arrest of a burglary crew responsible for a string of crimes across Devonshire, West Valley, and other parts of Los Angeles. On March 22nd, Metropolitan B Platoon successfully took down a crew of organized burglars after a coordinated investigation that involved surveillance, air support, and strategic containment efforts. This case began when officers identified a new crew targeting homes in the Devonshire area. Intelligence linked them to multiple burglaries, and one of their known vehicles, a Toyota RAV4, was tracked to the area of Compton and southeast Los Angeles. Our officers surveilled the vehicle and identified the individual renting it. Several other males were also seen driving this vehicle, leading officers to believe they were also involved in the crimes. Seizing the opportunity, our officers conducted a pretextual stop, gathering valuable intelligence that would later prove critical in identifying members of the crew. Later that day, officers received information that the RAV4 was in the West Valley area, a known pattern before committing burglaries. With the assistance of air support, officers located the vehicle casing neighborhoods and witnessed 3 masked and gloved suspects attempting to burglarize a home on Lynette Avenue. The suspects entered through an unlocked door but fled when they unexpectedly encountered residents inside. They quickly moved to another target at Nance Place, where they smashed a rear slider door, ransacked the home, and stole valuable items. Our airship relayed this information to responding units. However, the suspects were monitoring police communications with radio scanner. Once they heard officers closing in, they fled at a high rate of speed, abandoning the vehicle near Haskell and the 405 freeway before taking off on foot. LAPD officers quickly established a perimeter with the support of West Valley Patrol and K-9 units. A systematic search led to the arrest of 2 suspects and the recovery of all stolen property from the victims. Additionally, crucial evidence linked them to other burglaries. Our detectives continued the investigation into the early morning hours, executing a search warrant at the suspect's residence in Southeast Division. 4 individuals were detained, including 1 suspect wanted for additional valley burglaries and a separate robbery warrant. During the search, officers recovered a stolen firearm from a recent Devonshire burglary and another empty gun box linked to a separate crime. We had a serial rapist case to report on. I want to highlight the major arrest of that person. This case began on February 9th, 2025, when a local sex worker was attacked near Figueroa Street and 80th Street. The victim was approached by the suspect, later identified as Andre Cobbs, and agreed to enter his vehicle. Once inside, Cobbs sexually assaulted her at knife point. Despite the trauma, the victim managed to take a photograph of both the suspect and his vehicle, which later became critical evidence in the case. Detectives were able to identify Cobbs as the suspect, leading to his initial arrest on February 28th for rape. However, at the time, the district attorney's office requested further investigation, and Cobbs was released. Detectives continued their pursuit of justice, and as the investigation expanded, they uncovered a disturbing pattern of violent crimes. Through CODIS, DNA hits, and the suspect identified in multiple crime reports, it was determined that Cobbs was linked to at least 13 cases spanning nearly 2 decades, 9 sex-related crimes and 4 robberies dating back to December of 2007. These crimes occurred across multiple jurisdictions, including 5 LAPD cases, 3 in 77th, 1 in Central, and 1 in Southeast, 5 LA County Sheriff's Department cases, 2 Long Beach cases, and 1 case in Corona. With newly developed evidence, the LA County District Attorney's Office filed an arrest warrant on March 18th, charging Cobbs with 8 felony counts related to 3 victims across multiple cases. These charges include rape, sexual penetration, forcible oral copulation, and robbery. That same day, Cobbs was taken into custody once again and booked on these charges. This investigation remains active, and the detectives are working to identify additional potential victims who may have been assaulted by Cobbs over the years. We urge anyone with information or who believes they may have been a victim to come forward. On another case on March 4th, Robbery Special Section detectives took over the investigation of a kidnapping and robbery that occurred in the 22,000 block of McFarland Drive in the Topanga area. The suspect zip-tied the homeowners and their son, holding them captive for several hours. The victims eventually managed to escape by breaking free and climbing out a bathroom window to seek help. Evidence recovered from the crime scene was processed, leading to a possible suspect through fingerprint analysis. Additional investigative work further supported these findings, and on March 14th, with the assistance of Special Investigations Section detectives, RSS detectives executed a search and arrest warrant, taking the suspect into custody without incident. A search of 2 residents uncovered valuable evidence, and during the interview, the suspect made incriminating statements. The investigation revealed that the suspect is the adult son of the victim's neighbor. On March 11th, about 1450 hours, Olympic Division patrol officers responded to a possible suicide attempt at a 4-story office building on Wilshire Boulevard. The call indicated that a male subject was sitting on the rooftop ledge, appearing at risk of jumping. Upon arrival, officers observed the subject on the edge of the roof, gazing downward. They immediately attempted to establish communication, but he remained unresponsive. Officers set up containment and requested a SMART unit to assist. When SMART officers and a supervisor arrived, they also made multiple attempts to engage the suspect, but he continued to be non-responsive. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, the incident commander requested a SWAT crisis negotiation team to respond. CNT negotiators made extensive efforts to initiate dialogue, but the subject did still not respond. Eventually, they determined that the individual spoke Mandarin and requested an officer fluent in the language to assist. A probationary police officer who spoke Mandarin responded to the scene and took over negotiations. Using patience, effective communication strategies, and a calm approach, she was able to establish a rapport. After continued dialogue, the subject moved away from the ledge and voluntarily surrendered to officers without incident. It was determined that the subject had previously reported missing by his wife the day prior. The subject was transported to Olympic Station, where the SMART unit conducted an evaluation and placed him on a 5150 hold for being a danger to himself. He was then transported to Los Angeles Downtown Medical Center for further treatment. The incident's a great example of the critical role of de-escalation, specialized crisis negotiation, and language proficiency in safely resolving high-risk situations. Thanks to the collaborative efforts of patrol officers, SMART, SWAT, CNT, a life was saved. I want to take a moment to provide an update on the current crime trends in Los Angeles based on data through March 22nd. Over the past 4 weeks, crime in Los Angeles has seen an overall decrease. Combined persons and property crimes are down 16% compared to the previous 4-week period, with persons crimes down 5.5% and property crimes down 18.6%. This is a positive trend showing that our efforts in crime reduction are having an impact. We've seen significant progress in reducing homicides. Year-to-date, homicides have decreased by nearly 42%, with 31 fewer incidents compared to this time last year. Over the past 4 weeks alone, homicides are down 68%, and all geographic bureaus have seen a decline. Additionally, victims shot citywide are down 21.8% to date, and over the past 4 weeks, they've dropped 30.9% compared to the prior period. While aggravated assaults remain relatively stable, there were notable increases in Topanga. They were up 63%, Pacific up 48%, Van Nuys 28%, and Harbor 16%. These are areas we are closely monitoring trends and deploying resources accordingly. Robberies, on the other hand, have decreased by 14.2% citywide. Strong arm robberies remain the most common type, accounting for nearly half of all robberies. However, robberies involving firearms are down 17.6%. Burglaries have declined 21% over the past 4 weeks, with decreases across all bureaus. Motor vehicle thefts have decreased by 14.2% citywide over the past 4 weeks. So while these are all encouraging reductions in overall crime, we continue to remain focused on targeted enforcement in areas where crime is rising. We'll continue to keep working with our community partners to maintain these downward trends and ensure the safety of Angelenos. Finally, on personnel strength, our sworn personnel as of March 24th is 8,753. Our civilian personnel staffing is at 2,672, and our reserve officers remain at 380. That concludes my report, Mr. President and Commissioners.
Thank you, Chief.
Sure.
First, thank you for informing us in a successful resolution of the jumper and all the people that were involved out there in terms of the units, and then having to have someone who could speak the language with him. So that was an excellent outcome. Also, the investigative work done on the apprehension of the serial rapist.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. I do have one question, was not mentioned. I do believe we have people deployed in the ongoing fire response in repopulating areas of the city. How many people do we have deployed, and how long will that be going?
Yeah, we have a roughly 50 people a watch, 2 watches a day from LAPD manning the command post, as well as doing crime suppression patrols throughout the area and manning checkpoints along with the National Guard. We're supplemented by 20 to 30, depending on the day, California Highway Patrol officers. And in addition, over 300 California National Guard soldiers are still being deployed to that area. So there is a lot of personnel assigned to maintain the safety of the area. It is still an unsafe area. How long it'll go on is yet to be determined.
Thank you. I'll open the floor for my fellow commissioners for any comments or questions. Vice President Shields.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Chief, for that very comprehensive report. I want to first, welcome our new Inspector General, Inspector General Barragan. Thank you. We look forward to working with you and your leadership in the office. And I want to also echo President Souther's thanks to Florence Yu, who served as an acting Inspector General for over 9 months and did so very honorably, ethically, worked very, very hard and very capably. So thank you so much for that work, and also for acting Assistant Inspector General Joey Lipari, who also stepped in her role during that time. We're very indebted to both of them. And some great updates, Chief, in terms of, commending both the bomb squad, the Metropolitan Division, the detectives who made some very significant arrests in the last couple of weeks, and really want to echo the major kudos to the probationary officer who was able to communicate, and her ability to communicate with a member of our community in their native tongue during a time of crisis, I think can't be underscored how important that is. And so for her to be able to do that as a probationary officer is very impressive. A couple of things that I want to that I have questions about with regards to the Southeast officer-involved shooting. In the past, the department has had leadership kind of briefings that happen within 72 hours, or they're called the 72-hour briefing. And shortly thereafter, the names of any officers involved in the shooting are typically released. My understanding for the Southeast Division officer-involved shooting, that briefing has not yet occurred. Is that right? And has there been a shift in practice, or what can you tell me about how, what is happening there?
Yeah, it's a critical incident debrief that we're doing. They don't necessarily fall within the 72-hour period. That was a constraint that the department put on itself at some point years ago. We're trying to manage our workload with the number of people we have deployed. So we try and do this as expeditiously as we can, so we can ensure that the officers involved are being assessed, taken care of, taking care of their needs, as well as then looking at any threats that are out there potentially against anybody involved, and doing an overall assessment of the circumstances, whether the officers get put back to work and what the time period involved in that is. So it's still being done expeditiously. We renamed it from the 72-hour brief to the critical incident debrief.
Chief, I believe the police manual references a 72-hour briefing. And so to the extent that there are changes to that or changes in policy, I think it should come back to the commission for review. And understand, I think the reason why it was done kind of expeditiously is to make sure that if there's anything that is alerted that may need an immediate kind of change in training or practice or policy, that's immediately discovered by the leadership and then action taken. So I do have concerns of it just being pushed out for a significant period of time. And so if the policy manual references a 72-hour briefing and that's something that the department wants to change, then I would propose having that on the agenda at some point.
Thank you. Yep, I was there when we developed it, and it was exactly that, to determine what needed to be done and to address the things I did. So that number came up, as that was our goal, to try and do that. But we will report back and let you know where we are on that.
And when is the Southeast Division briefing, the critical incident briefing? When will that occur?
April 1st.
Mr. Reedy, please let me continue my questions. Ma'am, that's both of you. That's your first warnings. Please, no additional disruptions during the meeting. Okay, so again, I do think that this is something that the commission should examine, and also again, don't want to unnecessarily constrain the department, but I do think that if there's going to be a deviation from 72 hours, how long of a deviation that is, and under what circumstances, I think should be discussed by the commission. The other thing that we've received a lot of comments about is the release of a critical incident video involving an officer-involved shooting in Foothill. And I understand that that's going to be something that the commission reviews as a normal course after FID completes its investigation and all of those things. But I'm wondering whether there were any trainings coming out of that kind of critical incident review, particularly in the context of trauma-informed care, tactical disengagement, the use of less lethal uses of force when being approached by someone who is threatening suicide so that it doesn't turn into a lethal use situation. Have any of those types of trainings or other things come out of that briefing?
I'd have to get back to you on that particular one, but those are things that we review and analyze on every critical incident review. The opportunities for de-escalation tools, tactics, training, that's an ongoing effort.
And I do think, especially as we see more of these cases involving individuals in crisis and typically armed with some type of, edged weapon, the more we're able to rely on our mental health experts, MEU, behavioral services, sciences services. I think that the department should be looking to them. And I believe the department also previously had the LAPD Professional Advisory Committee. And they have some great experts there too. And I don't know whether that's been used in the last couple of years, post-COVID. And so I think turning to them for additional guidance here would be helpful. And so maybe President Suthers, maybe we have a presentation from them at some point during one of our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Morning. Thank you, Chief, for the report. Welcome, Inspector General Barragan. I want to just echo a little bit of what Commissioner Shields mentioned in terms of the critical incident briefs. Also very interested in understanding how and why the changes are occurring. I know there's been attempts to potentially begin to update some of the use of force policies. And so if we can get some more information on where we are with that and how this is going to improve the investigations around use of force, and how we ensure that we also are informing the community in a timely manner. Right. And not delaying the information that should be out. to the community. And also regarding the Foothill incident, again, echoing the comments of how do we ensure that our officers are recognizing that they potentially are outside of their expertise when it comes to certain engagements and quickly pivot to bringing in the right folks that can better handle and de-escalate situations like that.
Yeah, thank you.
So if we can get a presentation.
Sure.
And again, figuring out what is the best way to pivot officers faster.
Yeah, it comes down to resources primarily, and having those resources available or at scene or ready to be able to respond as quickly as we need them. And oftentimes they made the request, and before they can arrive, the person they're dealing with in crisis, their actions dictate what happens next. And so it's our people are very cognizant of the need for additional resources that bring in mental health clinicians and experts to be able to deal with something that is beyond the norm. And so they're more anxious than anybody to get those resources to the scene. It's a question of how many are being deployed.
Haggis, can you not hear me?
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to also welcome our new Inspector General, Math Barragan. Welcome. I look forward to working with you. Also, Chief, good morning. Thank you for the comprehensive report. I do have a couple of questions, and not to review some of the points that Commissioner, my two prior commissioners spoke about specifically regarding the 72-hour policy and the possible deviation, the use of force, and also dealing with people in crisis. And although there might be some budgetary limitations, I really do feel that we need to look at our mental health clinicians and see if we can incorporate them better and quicker and more frequent in these mental health crises of suspects. But I do have a question regarding the March 20th incident that you spoke about regarding the home explosion. My question is really regarding the mandatory evacuation of the surrounding homes. How many families were evacuated? Do you know?
I believe it was initially 26 homes, so 26 potentially families as well. There were more than that for the secondary burn because of the potential of a bigger explosion, which it turned out to be accurate. So that whole block around it was evacuated for a period of time. The Red Cross assisted in providing housing for the people who needed it. Most of the people were able to stay with friends or relatives during that period of time. It was certainly an inconvenience, but a necessary one when, if you were able to see the video footage of the burn and the subsequent explosions from that, it was a bomb that went off, as aptly put by the ATF special agent in charge who was there. And I'm very thankful that we had the resources working on that collaboratively, and that we took the precautions that we took, with containment. There were sand berms built around it. There were fencing put up to be able to catch most of the major blast fragments. But when you saw the explosion on video, it was something that I don't think people in the community would have expected would have happened. So by notifying the community earlier, the mayor was out there, the fire chief and myself, we did a press conference with ATF to notify the community of the potential danger and the reason for the evacuations, and really to ask for their patience as this played itself out over at what turned out to be the next 10 hours that evening.
Chief, were any homes affected, any destruction of homes?
The initial one where the suspect was burned, severely burned, that was basically uninhabitable. The roof pancaked onto the rest of it, which is why our bomb squad folks and fire department couldn't get in to see what was underneath there. which is why they took the precautionary measure of burning it in place rather than trying to transport anything away from there. The fear was that it was volatile to the degree where any movement of some of those precursor chemicals could have caused a detonation. And so they put fencing around it. They put the berms around it. They put a gel, a thermo gel, they call it, over plastic over the other buildings that surrounded it so they wouldn't burn, and then detonated or lit the diesel fuel that they had put throughout the residence in order to cause the burn. That was lit by robotically by one of the bomb squad pieces of equipment.
Apart from the suspect's home being burned, destroyed, any of the 26 other homes in the surrounding area, were they impacted in any way? Their homes also damaged?
Yeah, to my knowledge, not at this point. I'm not aware of any homes that were damaged. I can find out further on that in case any claims were made, but they took every precaution they could to avoid that. And it was the primary residence, and then there was an outbuilding behind that where many of the fireworks were being stored that also was destroyed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now go on to agenda item number 2, public comment. Madam Secretary, please announce the first speaker.
First, we have Mr. Herman.
Morning, Mr. Southers. Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, Mr. Barragan. Hopefully you could bring this horseshoe of people here together and straddle them for the long ride we're going to enjoy on this particular events of what's going on in this small state of California. You know, just 8 officer shootings is not enough. What's enough? I don't know. I think 1's enough, but 8? 8 shootings? And 1 stabbing on a metro? A couple of days ago? Who wants to get on a train or a bus during the Olympics? I do not. I do not wish anyone coming into this country to think that it's safe. And regarding Mr. Pomeroy, on matters of public concern, well, I'm going to read some matters of public concern this morning into the record because there's been some turnabouts about people's use of words. And it sounds like a communist country is starting to grow in California, where the communists are dictating what we can and what we should and are not going to say. And I find that offensive to the First Amendment and our right to free speech. Because if you have 1 or 2 words now going to ban you and censor you at a meeting, I find that as an attack against our belief in the First Amendment and free speech. Now, I'm going to quote the significant portion of Brandenburg versus Ohio. If you have any children or family here that feel offensive or officers that feel offended by this content, this was a ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court, 395 U.S. 44, 1969. And I say this because of the issues involving the city of Los Angeles. Dirty. The housing situation, dirty. The homeless crisis, dirty. And this is what it reads into the record. How far is the nigger going to?
Mr. Herman,
Yeah.
Mr. Herman,
Yes.
you're off topic.
Why?
That's irrelevant here.
I'm reading this case about the dirty LA, sir.
No,
It has a lot to do with the
that-
content.
that's a criminal statute that doesn't apply here. You're off
Oh.
topic.
So then if I say fuck the police, is that a criminal statute? If I say fucked for 8 years because your Obama for 8 years did shit, is that off topic, sir?
Yes, it is. You're off topic.
How about Michael Hunt versus the city of Los Angeles, a white nigger too? Is it off topic too? Because apparently that's the communist country you're bringing to America today. Trump, 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 save America. You're all full of shit and you're all going to hell. Snyder versus Phelps. And this is for the record, god damn it.
Next, we have Jason Reedy.
I know, me either. I hate it when he talks like that.
Okay, so we are now 11 days removed from your pigs murdering Mario Sanchez, and the name of Mario's killers remain a mystery. Why? The LAPD refuses to release their names, citing concerns that there is a risk of harm to these pigs. Think about that for a moment. You steal the life of a father of two, firing over 30 times at him, who was simply holding a cell phone. The coroner lists his cause of death as a gunshot wound to the head, and yet the LAPD has the audacity to claim that these killer pigs who have caused unimaginable harm to our community now face a risk of harm themselves. We have to wait till April 1st. That's not of utmost importance to this department. You killed someone, and you won't release the names of his killers. Again, what other shootings have these pigs been a part of? Who else have they killed? Now, Mario was executed over a traffic stop. LAPD chose to mention in its media briefing and here today that Mario yelled profanity at your pigs, as if this is seemingly a reason why he deserved to die. Since when is profanity a death sentence? Fuck that, fuck you, and fuck this commission who has routinely allowed the LAPD to delay the release of names of pigs who murder and shoot our brothers, sisters, and siblings. Now, the pinkest of pigs, Jim McDonald, in his March message to rank and file, praised the LAPD for its so-called quote-unquote proactive and considered efforts towards traffic safety. Fully aware of the findings from the vehicle pursuit analysis that will be presented today. This report reveals that 353 crashes were caused by your pursuits in 2024 alone, leading to the deaths of 3 innocent people. But this isn't new. It's been happening for decades. On March 14th, 1969, the LAPD killed 15-year-old black youth Linwood McLean in a car chase. The next day, March 15th, they killed 2 black men, Abe Broom and John McCorder, in what they labeled as a quote-unquote accidental car crash. Their names are set to be erased just like so many others as you continue to destroy records of your past killings. Now I see former LAPD pig chief Martin Pomeroy died recently. Good. The only good pig is a dead pig.
No.
All right. Pomeroy defended the murder of Margaret Mitchell, a 5'1", 100-pound woman in mental crisis who was killed for waving a screwdriver at your pigs in 1999. Black pigs within the LAPD knew Martin was to be a racist. And he was a devout Mormon whose denomination believed that dark skin is a curse from God. And this is the pig that Jim McDonald called a mentor. Now, lastly, as the LAPD gives a presentation for Women's History Month today, let us not forget Sister Ludi R. Henderson, a 43-year-old black woman murdered by this department on September 12, 1968. Let us also remember Yvonne Carter, the wife of Bunchy Carter, who was repeatedly targeted by this department. There's one particular instance I wanted to recount. Now, many know that on December 8th, 1969, the LAPD attacked the Black Panther headquarters. You all chose to commemorate 3 SWAT pigs from that assault a few months back. But what is forgotten is that the LAPD at the same time was barraging the Black Panther Party headquarters, shot up the safe house that housed Yvonne Carter. Your pigs kicked down the door at 5 a.m. and showered the house with bullets. The bed where Yvonne was sleeping had her 8-year-old daughter, Michelle, and Bunchy Carter's 8-month-old son, Osceola, in.
Thank you. Thank you. Your 3 minutes of public comment has expired. Thank you. Please step away from the podium. You're disrupting the meeting. This is your first and last warning.
Andrew Graebner.
Starting off with the Chief's report. The Chief's report shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. Today, it took almost 19 minutes. So, but yeah, we only get 3 minutes. But the Chief just went on and on and on, lying and saying all kinds of nonsense. Meanwhile, you still won't release the names of the cops who killed that guy for holding up a cell phone. You were supposed to do it a long time ago. You're saying April 1st. What are you just saying that? Is it April Fool's joke or something? Or are you even going to release it that day? I mean, release the names already. And of course, you know, killing other people too. And just, you know, going on and on. You're just trying to come up with all kinds of propaganda to make yourselves look good. while not refusing to release those names or mention anything about Linda Becerra Moran or anything like that. You just won't say anything here. And of course, won't talk about how you keep assisting Trump immigration officials as they're now sending people to torture camps in El Salvador, but yet you keep assisting them. Even though you keep claiming you aren't, even though you are. And yes, traffic control is a form of assisting them, so don't try to claim that it isn't. We have something related to hate crimes while your LAPD officers repeatedly say all kinds of racist shit, like the training division that Errol thanked at a recent meeting. After it was found they were saying all kinds of racist stuff about their own recruits. Is that how they talk about the public? Let's see, we have $45,000 worth of hazmat equipment. We have an almost $20,000 advertisement for the LAPD. What are you going to say in that advertisement? Like, just all kinds of weirdness going on here. $20,000 for ballistic helmets. We've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in ergonomic desks and training expenses for the Van Nuys division. We have all kinds of money for desert runs so that they can go pass out in the desert and get airlifted to a hospital on taxpayer expense, since apparently you can't just do some trust exercises or something for team building. We've got expensive vacation for the police chief, for some weird conference. I can't even get through all this in 3 minutes. But of course, the chief got his almost 19 minutes to lie. Such a mess, this place.
Next, we have Zoom caller ending 1264.
Hello?
Hi, what items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Yeah, Chief, and the commissioners. I had been on hold for an hour and 20 minutes with the dispatch. Really unacceptable. And what we have here is we have illegal vendors that are taking business from brick and mortar businesses coming out of our community and into our community and just taking over the street. And they have tables, chairs, gas grills, all combustible items on the sidewalk. And the police come and they act like it's okay. Now, the brick and mortar pay taxes, pay permits for that not to happen, for you to protect their interest. And it doesn't happen. You just look the other way. And it also, just like what you did in MacArthur Park, yeah, you went in and took out the illegal vendors because they were attracting other illegal activity. And that was a good job you did. Now we need to do that in the San Fernando Valley because that's where they are. They come here and they've just taken over and have totally been disrespectful to our community. And police need to start doing something about it and protecting our legal businesses, not illegal business, because that's what the police is doing. The police is enabling illegal business in the San Fernando Valley right now. And they're working against us. Our police officers are working against the citizens, the ones who pay taxes, the ones who do things legally. Why? I don't know. Obviously, you've been taken over by a political group or something, some kind of organization or something that just, dismisses our sovereignty for another country's sovereignty. It just doesn't make any sense. And I wish you would do something about it, please. Thank you.
Next, we have William Good.
So to be clear, once again, crime is down. It's been down month over month, year after year, ever since COVID. But yet you guys, this guy right here, and you are asking for more of our money. Crime is down, fewer cops. Why do you want more money? We have a massive budget deficit, $1 billion. We are in crisis in this city. And every dollar that's directed to the LAPD budget are dollars that are lost in services, whether it be street services, sanitation. We're cutting funding for elderly food programs. We're cutting funding for children's food programs. You can't justify an increase in their budget. It's got to stop. Now, this guy just disrespected you guys, right? You guys asked, why haven't you released a critical briefing on the incident in Southeast Division? And he had to come up, he sat there pondering for a minute, trying to figure out what day he'll arbitrarily come up with. And of course, he came up with April Fool's Day. That's when he's going to be releasing the information. And he's doing this against, you brought up the policy shield. Their own manual says they have to do it within 3 days. And he says, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Because he doesn't feel accountable to you guys. And he's right. He's accountable to the LAPPL. See, I have commanders that reach out to me here. And they say they can't get any complaints sustained. Because they'll try to sustain a complaint for unauthorized use of force. It goes to him. The LAPPL ends up in his office. They say they're daily almost showing up unannounced. They say LAPPL should just move in because he has given them that power. So you guys are not accountable. He's not accountable to you. He's accountable to them. It's time for you guys to take your power back. Now, over in Foothill Division, Linda Moran, she called 911. She said, I'm being held at a hotel against my will. I'm being trafficked. I've been raped. And the officers came to the hotel and dismissed her and were smug and rolled their eyes at her as she was crying and asking for help. And no one listened. And rather than call for an RA, the cops are like, well, just be more dismissive. So she pulled out a knife. She got a knife and put it to her own neck because she was desperate for help. And the supervisor on scene told officers, back up to the doorway. He had a DCO, one person to shoot, and he had somebody with less lethals. Said if she takes a step towards us, close the door. She took a step and you shot her and you killed her. A woman who was trafficked and asked for your help. There is not a police fix for issues like that.
Next, we have Audit LA.
Good morning. And welcome to the new OIG. I need to get your email because I email quite a bit. I'm here. I want to discuss something that happened on this past week about CPAB. Okay. During the day, I bumped into one of the top. She's on both two CPABs. Her name. I've been asking for her removal. She's a high-level Scientologist, OSA agent. And I don't have enough time to really just to get into detail what that means. And her name is Janet Wheeland. Well, she saw us at City Hall, and that night, now mind you, the captain himself told me when the CPAB meeting was. I came from down here. I skipped the meeting because I wanted to go there. I don't cause any problems. You know me. I'm like this wherever I am. I am respectful to everyone, hopeful that everyone's going to get on the same page and do what's right. But I also want to be, hold accountability and discuss my issues. So I go there, I never cause a problem, but all of a sudden it's, because we ran into her, that's, all of a sudden they're closing the CPAB to the public now. And I don't even comment at their CPAB because they don't have comment. I don't interject. And I'm disrespectful. I want to see what's going on. I feel like it's supposed to be for the public. It's supposed to be like a private club. And especially with Scientology involved because of how much connection they have to the city. I mean, especially these two departments, Hollywood and Northeast. But Northeast not only lets me come, they let me speak openly, even if it's, maybe not what they want to hear, but I'm respectful and they've never had a problem. But this one captain, he said they're no longer going to allow the public in. They're going to do coffee with the cop. Now, I used to be on CPAB, okay? I know I used to help organize coffees with the cop, okay? And I don't want to go to coffees with the cop. They're in private companies, at like Starbucks or wherever they have it. And it's just for the people who are not connected or know what's going on or who are very interested in what's going on. It's for the neighborhood to kind of get to meet a cop and get to know a little bit, to understand there's a slow program and all these things. I'm looking for deeper than that. I'm looking for what's going on. And so I am asking for, I am going to start, I want a reform to CPAP. It's not supposed to be a private little club, for the captains and where they can just close it at whim. They should not be afraid of transparency, of being held, accountable, or no one should. The chief, all you guys, you sit here and you have to take all this, sweat. And I know it's not easy. I know that. And I hope I have always been respectful, even when I disagree with something. That's just how but regardless, I'm grateful that you guys keep this open. I know you're Brown Act, so you don't really have a choice. And CPAPs unfortunately aren't, but I'm hoping, sir, that you would please open it up to the public. Don't let that happen. And then also it seems like, so that's that. Then I'm going to skip over. Well, I guess I don't have time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Bike Guy.
First, good morning to the commission, Chief McAleese. Now, suggestion. On your volunteers, white uniform shirt, you have a patch that's like the one up there, LAPD. Look, it would look much more professional. You know that sunflower badge you had a few years back, the guys wore for the bicentennial?
Good
Have
job,
that
Bike
for the
Guy.
volunteers, stating volunteer, maybe LAPD, but definitely volunteer. And the plus to that is you can buy one of those shirts in a thrift store every now and then. The badge, it was issued, you can't buy those. So it's a suggestion, and we want to look as sharp as Burbank. Thank you.
Good
Next,
job,
we have
Bike
Zoom
Guy.
caller Mona M.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Ms. Yu, for this last year. You've been very helpful, and welcome to the new IG. Chief McDonald, thank you for being a great listener. You said you would be, and you have been. What may sound like anger from a community of survivors may actually be hurt, fear, frustration, and rejection of the justice system, starting with the LAPD. I need for the LAPD to take its blinders off about Scientology. They have shown you an inaccurate picture. We want the government and the protectors of our fair city to know that they have fooled you into thinking they are assets. They are not. They are predators. My question to the commission is, where do you stand on the First Amendment? The Supreme Court, in several decisions, has decided and confirmed there should be equal justice for all, including the war between religious rights and individuals' freedoms of speech, i.e., Prince versus Massachusetts. When you give bias and prejudice to an organization hiding child abuse behind the shield of the religious protection, it is violating civil human rights that we should be protected under also. Time to wake up. Our children today are being abused and need protection. Remember what every Scientologist is told every time they do a session. I quote, "While we cannot guarantee you that matters revealed in this list will be held forever secret, we can promise you faithfully that no part of it, nor any answer you make here, will be given to the police or the state. No Scientologist will ever bear witness against you in court. This policy allows for predators access to our precious children day after day without threat of discovery. That is the question before you today, Mr. Suthers, Ms. Shield, Mr. Django. Where do you stand on hiding child abuse? As civil rights authoritarians, I would hope that communication for facilitation of a resolution is at the forefront of your thoughts. I see you have a hate crime grant implementation on your agenda. We would like a seat at the table for that, to work together to build solutions for everyone. I would appreciate a return phone call, or you can speak with Audit LA, who's there in your audience, to talk about this, to have a seat at that table. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
Next, we have Jonathan Foster.
Hello, Jonathan Foster. No introduction, starting with this one.
crime update discussing our personnel strength. We had no officer-involved shootings or categorical uses of force during the previous week.
So that was last week on the 11th. That's great. Thank you. And that's what we're trying to do, is not shoot anybody. So I remember on both of the outings in 24, the general public supported the police department. Okay. Number two, the police are good. The commission is bad. You're telling people to shut up. You need to leave, bro. You're so derogatory. Wrong. You should shut up yourself. I heard about a female officer got stabbed in the neck, and it was a white guy. And I wish they would keep talking about what the white people do when they commit their crime. So they shot Linda Becerra Moron. And so what I got to, what happens when these officers, they end up doing this, and the emotional devastation to the officer? I know they harmed the girl, and they say a lot of things about the suspect. Well, what about the officer? Right? See, I've come down here with feasible, viable, doable suggestions like Bola Rap. I called Bola Rap and I asked him, so when the police department, you guys are trying to arrest somebody and they doing this, right? You can't get this arm, so they're all like this. So I was like, well, why don't they just put something around them? Wrap them up like that. They don't want to let go. Wrap them up. Tie up the legs. I've suggested net guns. I've suggested body armor. So I've talked about the good and the bad now today. So Linda Becerra Moron is just like Takar Smith, right? And if they had body armors or a net gun and the officer needed to take a blood test, they shot the guy 30 times, every officer needs a blood test. Why? Because we know 40% of the police department is a DUI and a sexual assault committer. And then all of a sudden I realized past Commissioner Caruso, the billionaire, he missed 40% of his meetings. And it's just like the DUI and the sexual assault goes parallel. Where is the George Floyd Valentine? How about the Dr. Bashir Valentine or the Skip Townsend Valentine? What would they say? How about we do a John Mack Valentine? How about we do a John Mack? Would you finally say the names? So I'm going to try to not yell and scream. So, you know, I'm upset. I've got a lot of things to talk about. And I think that the police department is completely under unprecedented number of obstacles. So I hope you do better.
Next, we have Soma Snake Oil. I'm here as director of a women's homeless service organization for Women's History Month to speak on behalf of Linda Moran, a vulnerable trans woman of color who was shot in the chest by LAPD Foothill Division when she called for help while being held hostage and sex trafficked. Linda was a participant in my program. She's someone that my team worked with. And her death is a personal loss to our community. My team and I spent time with Linda in hospital despite police repeatedly trying to deny Linda access to her advocates. We were there to witness the continued violence against Linda as two police were guarding her in ICU. She was under arrest as she was dying. My teammate and I were there when she died. And we walked with her on her honor walk to the OR, where they recovered her kidneys and saved 2 lives with police murder. Where was the de-escalation and language skills you brag on when LAPD humiliated, misgendered, and yelled in English at Linda, a monolingual Spanish speaker, and traumatized her to the point of repeatedly begging police to leave her alone? I've been here before to warn you about exactly this thing, that police response to sex trafficking or sex work is a major safety issue for my people. You did not listen, despite me presenting research evidence from USC School of Law. I'm here today to demand a full release of body cam footage and 911 tapes, not the sanitized version that still looks bad for you, and how your people tortured Linda before they met her with deadly force. I'm also here to demand the immediate firing of the officer who murdered her and his supervisor who approved the action. Finally, as I have repeatedly warned you in the past, police do not rescue my community. They harass, sexually assault, and in Linda's case, they murdered her. Your police have no business responding to survivors of trauma, regardless of if social workers are present, because your police increase trauma. You cannot train your way out of murdering people. What will it take for you to listen that police are not the right people to respond to survivors, if not because LAPD murdered a victim of sex trafficking?
Next, we have Megan.
Ooh, that was a little sobering.
You're clowns. You're the clowns that they send out in front of the carnage to distract the public from the fact that we have no accountability for LAPD in this city. You are literal fucking hype men for racist, homophobic, trigger-happy degenerates. You launder their murder and their rapes and their assaults, and you ask us to be quiet and polite while you do it. You suck up half the city's budget. You are not allowed to say, Chief McDonald, that you don't have resources. You have all the resources. We do your job for you. We show up to do it every week, just like Black Lives Matter and Stop LAPD Spying has done for years. Now, none of you acknowledged Linda's death when it happened. None of you. I want to acknowledge it. She did not deserve to die. She called you for help, and she was shot by an officer at 10 feet away with a knife to her own throat. None of you mentioned it when she died. None of you said you were sorry or denounced it, because you don't, and you're not sorry. I also want to acknowledge the life of Mario Sanchez, the 8th person you've shot this year. His life should not have been taken, and as decent fucking people, we mourn his passing. You don't. You don't feel a thing. You have to be a little dead inside and a little cold-hearted to get up there and act like you guys do. To ask the simpering fucking questions that you do. It's really ass-kissing disguised as questions. Oh, but Chief, what if the person is having a mental health crisis? Isn't there another way to de-escalate the situation? Young Yang was just killed in his family's fucking living room with his whole family outside telling you that it was a mental health situation. Honestly, is it evil or is it ignorance? You make clear every week what your values are. You fall all over yourselves honoring the deaths of officers not even in this department, but no mention for Linda Becerra-Moran. I've heard all of you denounce the incredibly racist language and homophobic language captured on tape in the recruitment department, but none of you ever denounced the killing of a civilian or even say that you're sorry that it happened, because you aren't. You're in favor of it. You have a problem with the language of your racist, homophobic cops, but not with the murders committed by those same cops. You are pointless. You are a drain on this city. You make this city worse.
Next, we have Zoom speaker Tony Russo.
All items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Police commissioners, I urge you to immediately investigate Craig Lally, president of the Los Angeles Police Protective League, for misusing union funds, hundreds of thousands of dollars, not to defend officers or fund writs, but to carry out a personal vendetta against Commander Lillian Carranza. Carranza was one of the top 10 candidates under serious consideration by the mayor to become the next chief of police. The LAPPL launched a politically motivated smear campaign, including a frivolous lawsuit, videos, and social media attacks, timed to derail her candidacy. And it worked. She was effectively eliminated from the selection process. Why was she targeted? Because she filed a formal complaint against Craig Lally after supporting a captain who exposed an unauthorized use of force against a minor. Her stand for truth and accountability triggered the league's retaliation. The lawsuit filed against her was dismissed without prejudice, proving it was baseless and without legal merit. Yet it caused irreparable harm to her career, her reputation, and her opportunity to lead this department. This is part of a larger, deeply disturbing pattern. The LAPPL is weaponizing the complaint and legal system to attack and silence command officers who expose misconduct and criminal acts. Commander Carranza was singled out despite the fact that all command staff, including the chief, have access to the same LAPPL communication platform.
Okay, next we have Grace.
Every single item on this agenda is a calculated escalation of violence against our communities. LAPD's Women's History Month presentation will be a sham. It is not a celebration, it is propaganda. This department brutalizes, imprisons, and murders women, including those who turn to them for help. Linda Becerra Moran was murdered by LAPD after she sought protection. How many more names have been erased? How many more women have been abused, assaulted, and discarded by this institution? Now, as they've done with every person they've killed, they will doctor body cam footage, distort evidence, and rewrite the story until their version is the only one that remains. We refuse to let that happen. LAPD is not just complicit in violence against women, it is the primary perpetrator. No amount of diversity or representation can sanitize a system that is designed to terrorize, disappear, and kill. And while you sit here pretending to question policies, LAPD is removing any pretense of restrictions on facial recognition technology. This board claims to provide oversight, but the reality is that LAPD has always used surveillance to criminalize people. Now they don't even feel the need to hide it. You've approved this expansion just like you've approved every other tool of repression, and the people will be the ones who suffer the consequences. Meanwhile, LAPD is asking for even more money under the guise of hate crime prevention, which would hand over tens of thousands of dollars to a department whose own personnel were just exposed to spewing racist, homophobic, and misogynistic language. They are not just combating hate, they are institutionalizing it, just like policing was founded to do. And this board, yet again, will enable them, renewing funding for justice and security strategies, the private consulting firm that helped create LAPD's racist and deadly data-driven policing programs. These grants are not about safety, they're about expanding the architecture of surveillance. And you keep asking about, how can we ensure more trainings for the police? More trainings will not stop police violence because police violence is not the result of a lack of training. It is the function of policing itself. LAPD is already quote unquote trained. They do dozens of trainings in de-escalation and mental health crisis response, racial bias, and yet they continue to brutalize, incarcerate, and kill because that is what they exist to do. Mental health trainings do not change the reality that police escalate every crisis they enter because the presence of armed agents of the state is escalation. The city is not in crisis, the city is the crisis. This board is not an oversight body, it is an accessory to the violence that LAPD commits every day. And your function is not to serve the people, but to siphon resources from our communities while ensuring the police state remains untouchable. And we refuse to accept your manufactured legitimacy, and we refuse to let you dictate the terms of our survival.
Next, we have Quinn.
Yeah, I want to elaborate a little bit on the facial recognition. So basically what you have on your agenda is you're letting Assembly Bill 1215 expire. These were restrictions for photo comparison technology or facial recognition and comparison, particularly for technologies such as body-worn video, digital in-car video, and any other tech used by law enforcement like your phones or your cameras. All this means that any of the footage that you fuckers have you can now use for facial recognition without restriction. And prior to this, LAPD was technically only supposed to use facial recognition from LACRIS, which is supposedly used to capture, document, and catalog people's faces. But the reality is that there was no functional or actual restriction on the source of the photos that was used for facial recognition. And now you're just finally removing the pretense of quote unquote restrictions and no longer hiding your violence in the same way. Furthermore, people have mentioned, but you're having a Women's Month presentation. And I couldn't think of a group worse to have a fucking Women's Month presentation, you misogynist fucks. And on February 7th, people have already mentioned this, but LAPD, you murdered Linda Becerra Moran in cold fucking blood. Linda was a trans woman who needed help, and she was being held against her will. When she called for you, she wasn't met with help. She was met with bloodthirsty pigs. She was met with gunfire. You claim that you function to protect people, and you often tout human traffickers as a threat to public safety. In fact, last month, you fucking used a human trafficker as a fucking excuse in order to have police, LAPD, fucking aid ICE despite your public sanctuary city ordinance. How the fuck are you helping people who are being trafficked if you're the ones murdering them? And your body camera footage, which is highly edited, even your own edited version shows you murdering Linda. You shoot her in the chest and then toss her on her side and cuff her like she's an animal. Linda was a person. And you fucking killed her. Why? Because she was trans? Because you, all of LAPD and this commission, you have a thirst for blood and for killing. You're the biggest serial killer in this whole fucking country. And we sit here in this commission talking about people's deaths at the hands of your piglets. And Jim talked about Linda's death like it was any other Tuesday. That's because for you it was. You murderers, you shoot someone as if it's another Tuesday. Another OIS in which you shoot, cage, cuff, and hunt people as if it's fucking sport. You are all evil. Someone had a cell phone and you used it as an excuse to murder them. It's never about guilt. It's not about what they're holding in their hands. LAPD presumes guilt when you arrive anywhere. This board is here so that you can mop up the blood of the killers that you protect. I hope that you all rot one day in the way that you do.
Next, we have Matios.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot we can talk about today, but I do think we're not appreciating the gravity of just the desecration of life that this department is undertaking and even how the commission is treating that desecration of life. And it starts at a certain entry point, even when we think about how this department routinely markets itself as inextricable from safety. As, you know, Quien just mentioned, you know, how you weaponize real violence against women, real human trafficking, and market yourselves as a solution to that. And then siphon resources from any other aspect of the community to make yourselves the sole resource for these matters. That is so cruel. That is so evil. And then when we think about how that plays out with Linda Becerra Moran, right? Who, you know, was trapped, was being trafficked, wanted out, and so reached out, believing the lie that you sell, that you are a means of safety. And we can't know what went on in Linda's head. We can't know how she felt because she's gone, because you killed her, right? But I expect and I believe that she just wanted to escape. She wanted out, right? She wanted to get out of there. That's why she called for help. And so even a knife to one's neck was an attempt at an escape. And with that context in mind, what a desecration it is to then kill someone who called you for help and then handcuff them, tie them up. It's disgusting. There's this question of whether this is ignorance or evil. This is evil. This is devoid of any love, compassion, empathy, and it's filled with such intent, such malice, and such masking. There's no saving this. And that plays out across the board. Even when we think about it programmatically, you know, that it's just another lie in a long series of lies. It almost feels like a moot point to talk about the nuances of your facial recognition policies, the sunsetting of state legislation. It doesn't matter. You lie about it. You're going to do what you want. And the truth is, this violent, disgusting outcome, that's desirable for you. You want your pigs to be dangerous. You want them to be deadly because at the end of the day, regardless of all your theatrics, regardless of all the veneer of sophistication, of professionalism, this is an institution meant for control, subjugation, and death. You want that. You're going to need that someday is what you're thinking. That's the place you operate from. So why the fuck would we come out here and perform? You know, why talk about the sunsetting of facial recognition legislation? What is this? Truthfully, let's be honest about what we are. We are the community. That's what we are. You seek to facilitate bloodshed. That's what it is, plain and simple. I don't even want to talk about policy today. You're disgusting. But, that'll come to light and people will see that.
Next, we have Hamid Khan.
Another murder, another lie, another manipulation, another conceit, and business as usual. Another hunt by these people. Another action where they would write their report saying no human involved, because there are no humans involved. This is a baked-in process, programmed, where people have to be killed. Social control is happening. This is how counterinsurgency operates. This is how people's neighborhoods are occupied. Ask any one of them, the shock absorbers for the system, if they even know the scale of biometric surveillance that is going on, if they even know how deep facial recognition, DNA collection, fingerprinting, and then when you add social media surveillance, and then when you add behavioral surveillance, what does it look like? Where do you go? Who do you talk to? Not to these fools. That's not going to make any difference. Because what did we talk about even the week before last when we were here? That those guys who were in the recruitment division and that racist tape was leaked. Danny Jong had gone through 102 trainings. Shirley Burgess had gone through 49 trainings. And what do they come back and they say? More resources for the LAPD, more training for the LAPD, more auditing for the LAPD, and yippee, we have a new IG now. There's going to be more reporting and more transparency. Really? To do what? And when the IG even does any work, and by the way, where is the audit for the suspicious activity reporting program? Baragan, you're going to have to work on that and get it done. Even when they show racial profiling going on, they make a mockery of things. They make a mockery of things. And then when you add drones, we talked about mission creep. Give them more drones. Do more crowd monitoring. Do more crowd control. Do more surveillance. And that's the whole thing that we've been fighting, that we've been doing. But I think it comes back to why we are here. Because we cannot not be here. We have to be here. We have to keep on exposing them. We have to keep on calling out their lies. We have to bring this message to the public, and we have to expose these people who they are. Shock absorbers for the system. You have a judge sitting on as a police commissioner. Ask the judge, what does reasonable indication mean? You've passed out judgments, observed behavior, reasonably indicative of pre-operational planning. Judge, is that anything? Does that mean anything to you? And you are allowing these policies to continue, which nothing else creates a pipeline to deportation on so many different levels. But we will not stop coming back, and we will not be silenced.
Mr. President, that concludes 45 minutes of public comment.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 3. We will now move on to consent agenda items. Madam Secretary.
Leaving the vocal audio portion of it. Well, absolutely shocked that I got picked to talk. I've been waiting. I know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to get in. But I'm glad Audit and I got to talk. So thank you all for joining me. I'm going to go hit lunch. It's already almost 2 o'clock here. I've got a few more things to do this afternoon. So at least we got 2 in. I appreciate it and have a wonderful, wonderful day.